Here we go. All right, so I'd like to convene the first meeting of the Approved Measures Debrief Subcommittee, November 19th, 2021. It's a little after 5 p.m. So I have attendees tonight as Terry Niles, Doug Lasher, Chris Goodwin, Bridget McClellan, and Chuck Green. And absent is Anthony Vendetti. All right, so our first order of business is to elect a chair who can facilitate the rest of
I'd make a motion to elect Chuck Green as the chair of the committee.
I'll second that.
All right, do we have any other nominations for chair? All right, all those in favor of Chuck Green as chair of this committee, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, I guess
Unanimous.
I am elected chair. Okay, so since I got this meeting organized, or we had organized this group at the last meeting, I've now received 2 requests to present the effect of the 2021 approved measures. One is to the Clark County Republicans on November 30th, and now, as of today, to the Neighborhood Association Council of Clark County on December 6th. So I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about how we handle these requests, and I sent around, and I apologize, Terry, I totally left you off of that email. The kind of a slideshow that I quickly put together and enlisted Maureen's help with some bouncing counselors. So I'm going to stop sharing this and then pull that kind of a rough presentation up. So let's see, how do I get rid of that? Here. So we have 6 of our measures were approved, 2 of the county council measures were approved. I'd like to hear your thoughts, because when we were out presenting the charter amendments, we actually did include the 2 county council measures as informational pieces. We deferred questions on those if we couldn't answer them to the county manager's office, and Lindsay Schaefer, or Shafar, how was her name pronounced? Shafar or Schaefer?
I've always heard it as Schaefer.
All right, I'll go with Schaefer. In this case, this presentation I threw together continued to have those 2 in there. I guess I wanted to hear your thoughts. If we're going to be summarizing the effects of our approved amendments, do we just focus on our 6, or do we add the 2 county council ones as well?
I think probably R6 would be most appropriate. We kind of have the scope here.
Just a quick clarifying question. So you said you got 2 requests. Did people know that this was something that we were going to do? How did people, or was it just like a random, like, oh yeah, can you do this? Or was there outreach to say, oh, I'd be willing to do this, or I'm just curious.
No, actually, it was kind of random. First,
both of those were random. Okay.
Yeah, David Glatley called, and he wanted to know if we were planning to do anything like this, and noted he had the quarterly PCO meeting coming up on November 30th. I said, well, we could do it, but we don't have our subcommittee in place yet, but I did commit because I think it is public information.
No,
Uh,
I mean, I understand that. It just seems kind of random that, because
Yeah, so no,
not something that I would think of like, oh, the charter review will give presentations on this. Yeah.
Well, and no, we haven't talked about it, but it gave me the idea that maybe, because I've been answering questions just on Facebook and in meetings just in passing, that people have. And then today or yesterday, Marilyn McCall wanted me to come speak to the NAC, the Neighborhood Association Council, on December 6th to give them a chance to weigh in on the 5 council district map. And I told her, well, we don't have any jurisdiction over that. That's within the redistricting committee. If they would like to have a presentation on the measures that passed, we'd be happy to come up with a presentation for that. But we don't have any jurisdiction over any changes to the map. And so she said she wanted to invite us to do that. So that's how that happened. I don't know if we want to make a general announcement, but the fact that we have 2 requests might indicate that there is an interest out there to have more.
Yeah, I'm gonna play a little normally I'm not cynical about stuff, but I just wonder what the value at this point would be in going out and making a presentation about what we have. We're trying to keep people focused on what we're going to be presenting in a week afterwards, and but again, once that happens, it will be next year before really anything, people will really be tracking that one. Maybe it doesn't really matter at that point. It's mainly internally within the commission that would be thinking about second phase of this process. Oh, we're having a public testimony tomorrow.
Yeah. Can
Yeah, but I don't want things are such a political heightened right now that people could take something and have their own agenda what they're trying to do rather than what the commission is set up to do. But anyway, that's just
Okay.
my thoughts.
Can I add to that? I think that it's particularly those 2 groups that you just talked about, like, the Republican group is really upset about, about the amendments and those kind of things. So that's going to be something that they're going to do. And then the NAC, when I presented to them, they were kind of upset that they weren't consulted before, the neighborhood associations. And I believe I talked to you about that as well, Chuck, when that happened, and that we didn't do that kind of outreach. So I mean, I don't.
Maybe you're worried about that they're going to jump on you.
With Doug about I think that the people that are going to be asking this are people that have a beef to grind.
Yeah, and to me, I don't mind. The fact is that they've passed. And
I get it, and they need to accept it.
Well, no, but I'm also one for information. And I have no problem presenting that these measures passed and here's what their effect is, because it's already written into the our ordinances and resolutions anyway. But what's not out there is there's nobody kind of giving people, one, the assurance that the county government's not going to cease operations when these take effect, and actually I went back and looked at our resolutions. I thought they took effect January 1st. They actually take effect upon certification of the election,
Ah,
which is next week.
really?
I didn't know that.
So I mean, I looked at your slides and stuff, and it just kind of the same things that have been presented, when we presented them. But you can, if you want to spend the time to do that and go to those, that's fine with you. I just don't think it's real rocket science, what we're going to be saying, and it's clear, but that's just my opinion.
Well,
I
and to me,
think it's a really, sorry.
oh, go ahead, Bridget.
I think it's a valuable exercise, except that the one question everybody has is the one that we can't answer, which is around redistricting. So what impact will it have on my particular address, sort of thing? And that won't be known for a while. But other than that, I think emphasizing what we have changed, it's kind of neat that people are interested, because really people didn't show a lot of interest before the election. So now they'll understand what they voted for or didn't bother to vote on. So
Yeah.
I think it's great that we're doing this.
Yeah, so something from what Bridget said made me think, like, what is different now that we can share about these amendments than what we already shared before? No new
I think,
information, right?
yeah, let me go through a couple of these slides, because
Okay.
if you remember when we were presenting these are all independent amendments. But we also noted, at least buried in the resolutions and markups, that there's some of these, if multiple ones pass, they kind of affect each other. And so that's really what I think is key here. And really where that takes kind of everything hits the fan, as it were, is in the 5-district county council one.
Yes.
Because not only does it create 5 districts, now I want to point out, and Terry, I think you might have been on this meeting yesterday morning, the redistricting committee, or the redistricting has to be in place by December 31st. At least that's my understanding from what I was seeing yesterday. I just attended the meeting to be able to answer questions on how we created the map, but anything beyond that is out of our hands now. They're actually going to be having a hearing on December 6th, I think. They should be advertising, they should be posting this, because those are public meetings. And then they have to then forward it to the county council, which needs to have a hearing within 30 days of that. And that's if they can only make changes up to about 2% of population in each district. So they can only do minor tweaks. I'm getting, and this is where I'm seeing things, the big deal is Eileen Quiring O'Brien and Karen Bowerman are realizing that they don't live in the districts they will be representing in 2022.
But we don't know that yet, do we?
Well, yeah, we do. But we can't do anything about
That's
that
real?
because that would be gerrymandering. And we
I
looked into
didn't
that.
realize the redistricting commission had completed their work.
Yeah, so it's a redistricting committee that's charged with any of those changes. And we couldn't look at that under state law when we were
They
creating.
can't either.
And they can't either. Yeah,
Okay,
and
but I
that
don't
would
think-
be, I'm sure they would be taken to task if anybody tried to do weird changes like that.
I know.
So Chuck,
so
you
it's not-
mentioned, sorry, you mentioned that the charter takes effect after the election is certified. Does that mean that, did we put in a specific date for ending the chair's position and moving to 5 districts? Or does it mean Quiring is now representing District 5 as of November 27th or whatever they certify.
I
This
believe
is
it
where-
says they have to, at the beginning of each year, elect. So I would think that that would be,
Now, that's the internal election, but the districts,
that's the
Yeah,
internal.
that's,
Yeah.
and this is where it gets, I'd have to defer that to Amanda Michaelbrink. Because the 5 district map, at least in my technical, non-legal professional opinion, takes effect November 23rd.
right?
However, the redistricting committee is looking at some modifications to that map under the charter. So I think logistically, I would believe when the redistricting process has fully completed is when this would take effect.
So that's something that would be
That's not
probably
our
difficult.
purview.
Yeah, that'd be difficult for us to, or for you to comment on, and I just don't
Yeah.
want people to bash you or,
But I don't want us
that's
to
getting
be
it.
talking for the county either.
Yeah.
Well, and what I'd like to
Pretty-
do with this presentation is I actually did want to run it by Amanda before we do anything with it. Because what I'm showing in here is what's in our resolutions.
Okay, so I appreciate you wanting to educate people, but as the Charter Review Commission, I think that we were tasked with putting amendments forward. We weren't tasked for things that the county educating the community afterwards about those tasks, about those amendments. But, and, if you want to do it, that's fine. I just don't think as like, putting out a thing going, oh, we're, and doing a bunch of presentations, around that. I'm
Well,
not super interested in that.
I
The
can.
only
I'm
thing
gonna
that
try to
we'd
stop.
add to that is that we did adopt a resolution around a how-to book, and in essence, the explanation is how it's going to apply.
We didn't have a resolution around the how-to book.
A
Well,
motion at a meeting?
yeah, we created a subcommittee. That's, yeah, and that's more.
And that's to
how
work with
to
the county, not the
do the
community.
charter. I think what I'm hearing, and I'm going to suggest this. Let me pull up my little notes page. I think what I'm hearing is, because this subcommittee is set up, is tasked with debriefing over the approved measures. And to me, a debrief, we had set this up for a couple things. One is to debrief and provide county support for legislative intent. And debrief to me means dissemination of information. Now, if we or I are asked to make presentations, I have no problem making presentations. I could make them on my own, not representing the Charter Review Commission. And also I'm hearing we're not going to make a concerted effort and issue a press release and post things on our website about like this presentation. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think I have, I don't think I have an objection to putting your slides up and you're on the website if that's what you would like to do. If you talk to the county, do it. I just think that we have a lot of things to do in a month. And so can we do that? Can we just put the slides up after they're reviewed by the county on the county site? And I don't mind, and you talking to your groups, you can go do that. I mean, I'm sure that, the groups that I'm in will be asking me about. I've been to a couple of forums, all this week. And they asked me about like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I have no problem, talking to them about it. But that would be up to you. I just don't, you know, we made a real concerted effort to do teaching around it, and now we have 1 month to kind of get to finish up with all of our other stuff, you know, like the how-to guide, and then, you know, how those kind of things. But you know, I'm just one person. Everybody else can have their own opinion on that.
What do you think of what I just put up? I'm assuming I'm sharing my screen.
I like it.
I can see it.
Chris, can you see it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
And I'm, yeah, that's great. And you know, then we don't have to worry about posting the actual events where it's happening or any of those things. Everybody just kind of talk to their groups.
Oh my goodness, I don't want to schedule anything new.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
looks good to me. I just have one just kind of tiny scope thing, which probably isn't even that important. Just presentations of the effects sounds a little too much conjecture to me. So I don't know if there's another way to word that besides the effects of these, to be like just the literally, this is the output from these amendments, not
Yeah,
anything
I
that we're
agree.
guessing or assuming is going to happen from it. If that
A
makes sense.
summary.
Summary
Yeah,
is
'cause
wonderful, I think.
someone could take you in a meeting. They could take you down a path that is of mainly a roundabout, and you're just going round and round and round. So
Mean like Clark Griswold type roundabout? Big
yeah,
Ben, Parliament.
Fun movie.
yeah. So anyway, I just worry about you getting into a sticky wicket with folks that like to get you into sticky wickets.
Oh, they'll try, but say I, my response is these measures were approved.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and they're pretty
you can
simple.
complain all you want, but
Yeah.
this is what's going to happen.
Um, yeah, the voters voted on having 5 counselors in 5 districts, and
Right.
that's it. So they're if they want to have if groups want to have you come so they could sort of have a complaint session, I'd say a different word, but recorded uh, to you. I don't know if that's that productive, and it just fosters gets people away from the real task and mission of what we did, and understanding of why we think this is better government this way.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to take that risk because frankly, I want people to know what they voted on and that this county approved, and they can complain. I mean, I've been dealing with some of the, actually on both sides of the aisle complaining about the measures, but I've been telling them, well, it's a reality. And next time you got 5 years from now, you can join up and run for the same commission that we've been on. So um, to me, it's more deal with it.
I think we
Yeah,
have all had people that had varying, you know, opinions about what happened and didn't, and that happens with every election. But I think that one thing that we can say as a commission, that there was overwhelming support for what we put on there. And so people that might be happy with it, but you know, you're unhappy with over 65% of the voters. And so I think there's a lot of people that didn't really, my personal opinion, understand how the voters in this county feel about things.
Well, I think what astounded me with the results are we counted about 55% of the ballots that were reported on election night compared to what eventually got counted. We had enough yes votes on election night to pass each of these 6 measures.
Yeah.
That's how much they passed. I mean, that was, it just amazes.
Yeah.
People are ready for it, and they'll be ready for the
We're
next
ready
ones
for
too.
change.
Yeah.
Well, to make government more sensible, and I
Yeah.
think the 5 district map, that's a pretty good map you guys did. I thought the subcommittee did a great job pulling that stuff together. And
Well, and I do too, Doug. Terry was on it, and you weren't you on it?
no,
Who was on it?
I think it was me and you working on it.
I think you and me. We had a couple other members, but I think they kind of deferred to us. But when I look at what the redistricting committee is talking about, there's maybe a 5% difference in District 5 compared to what we had. We had the estimates, they have the census, but our boundaries are going to be pretty darn close to what they're going to end up with. And I think they make a lot of sense. I mean, you look at even District 3, the one that I know that Clark County Today has been complaining about. We've got I-205 on the west, 164th Avenue on the east that makes, and the limits follow for the most part, Vancouver City limits on that north part there. So I think this map makes it's really good sense. And I can tell you in Ridgefield, I was up there. Well, I think I posted on Facebook. I ran into the mayor and another guy who's been active up there, and I've run into others. They are just astounded that that they get the North County district, but second, the nonpartisan ones are the ones they were really lobbying for.
So, so yours, so to just kind of wrap up this conversation around the presentations around this. So when you're going out, you're not giving presentations on what we are proposing. You're giving just presentations on
Yeah,
2021. Okay.
Purely 2021, and that's all I want it to be. I'm sure they'll ask.
And you can just tell them we don't have anything yet until after the 8th.
I'll invite them to come to our meetings and make comment if they really want to weigh in on those, or take the survey. Although I think the survey will be closed by the time I get out and talk to people. So I'd like to move us along. So I think we kind of got consensus over what we're going to do with this. It's kind of, and what I'd like to do is, Terry, I know you might be getting requests as well through your forums and constituents, and same with others. This can be, it's similar to what we have for the master presentation that we've been using for the 2021 measures and now for the 2022. So it's really just a generic master presentation of a summary, and you can use this as you see fit if people ask you to present it. So what I want to do is move to what we want to do here, and what items that were milestones that we want to meet. And I think there's a few. The first one is, well, I think the first one was that slide presentation, which basically is the summary of the measures. Another one would be if we are going to merge the how-to guide work into our work plan, I would suggest we organize a meeting. It doesn't need to be all of us, but maybe it's the core team that's in agenda item 5, meets with Kathleen Otto and whoever her policy analyst that she would designate be, basically to go over the summary of these measures, as well as where we can identify things in the amended charter that need kind of a how-to summary. I know that the how to do a initiative and referendum will change a bit based on Measure 8, and that's really the elections office put that one out. I don't know if we need to get involved with that.
I think it's more how the next commission needs to operate, what they need to. We've had our experience whether we need a facilitator, at what times you need a facilitator, or do we need staff on to do, because there's a small, probably about 30% of us that did most of the writing, which may be natural anyway, but it would have, I think it surprised people how much work this commission had to do to produce these documents. So I think having more support and maybe look at the financial thing, because I'd like to know how much we really spent and where we spent it, because we could probably have a better plan for a budget, and how we communicate to the county manager to ensure that there's adequate support for the commission.
So,
One of the
Doug,
things
I need to
to
clarify something first, because I think that your idea of what the how-to guide is different from what I heard in the commission when we voted for it. What I
Oh.
heard in the commission when we voted for it was the how-to guide wasn't about particularly the Charter Review Commission. It was a how-to guide for the Home Rule Charter.
Right.
And Chuck, am I correct, Chuck? And that's what we kind of voted. And
Mhm.
Kathleen agreed that she would work on. So it doesn't have anything really to do with the, like, what we're going to put together for the next Charter Review Commission. They're two separate things. Am I correct, Chuck?
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
still a little confused. Can you what
So
what how
Doug, you're
to?
talking about number 4.
Oh, okay. So explain again to me. Then I'm still a little confused.
Chuck can explain it, because when he made the motion and then he actually asked Kathleen Otto in a meeting, right? And she said, yes, she would do that, because we
Yes.
were going to make a resolution and we didn't, and we did. Yeah. So
Do what?
Chuck can explain that.
Okay.
So what my intent was with the motion and creation of that subcommittee, which essentially is this subcommittee, was to, if you go to the charter, there's nothing on the county's website as to how to use it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Now, 70% of it is initiatives and referenda, mini initiatives. There's already a how-to guide that the elections office put out, I think it last year. But the other 30% is, how to, I don't know, how to deal with the breakdown between legislative and executive, how to understanding that. Now that everything's nonpartisan, that needs to be worked in. How does that work as far as filling vacancies, and how does it work in just the overall governmental process under the charter?
I always remember way at the beginning, somebody gave testimony. They had some beef, I think it was, whether it was between the separation between council and county manager, or whether it was an HR issue. But the person giving testimony, which wasn't really relevant to the Charter Review Commission, did not know where to turn to pursue her questions. And it seems like in some cases, if you think somebody has violated the charter, what would you do? I mean, that is just one of those things. People don't know that it's a guide, and they don't look there for guidance on rules and regulations. And it should be part of the how-to guide, not documentation of what we said, and not the code drafting. It could be a fairly simple how-to guide, in my mind.
Well, I can tell you one effort that's going to be a big deal is going to be, how do I file an ethics complaint?
Yeah, well, I was thinking that really was what I had in mind.
And we won't be able to know that because nobody's been hired into that position and it
Well,
hasn't been.
they haven't created the ordinance either, so I think
Yeah.
it's more of maybe sitting with the county manager and going
Yeah.
section by section and finding those where we have experience or expertise with it and see if there's anything we can help. My guess, just reading between the lines when Kathleen agreed to do this, was it's probably not going to happen until next year.
Yeah.
Right.
To bring it a little bit outside the box there, I mean, why does this have to happen while we're in office?
It doesn't.
Okay.
She can
It
do it
doesn't.
and she can reach out to Chuck as, you know, as an
Yeah.
expert, or she can reach out to any of us as an expert.
Most of us
We
would be
can
happy to
offer,
get
we can
together
offer
and-
that,
Mhm.
you know, going, oh yeah, anytime you want to call or talk to me or do all that.
I'd happily
But
volunteer
if
as a
you-
private citizen.
I
Yeah.
think it's good to set up a future work group for
Yeah.
Kathleen to consult, just so
Yeah,
that
that'd be
there's a structure.
Well, she
And I
can,
think you're
she
right,
can,
it'll be a few months down the road.
yeah.
Um,
We can use this work group. I don't know, whatever you guys decide, but we can just tell her that this group, the members of this group would be willing to work. I know, work with her throughout next year or whenever she wants to work on that.
I like
But
the
that-
idea about having volunteers to help them next year.
I will.
I think it doesn't, it means it doesn't, we don't need to rush to do anything.
Exactly.
This is a group that I was interested in volunteering in.
So why don't we do this? Are we kind of got a consensus that we don't think we can work that in our work plan this year, but we can suggest that there's 2 or 3 of us that are willing to sit down with them next year?
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
all of us are geeky enough to to try to run for the Charter Review Commission, so I think we definitely get a few folks if we put a call out. Yeah.
I will. I mean, if you want to make this group, then that's fine. And then that would give us some downtime,
Yeah.
so we won't be so, like, you know, on edge.
All right, are we okay with that? Push it to 2022 and we just offer up, if they want to contact us next year and set up a kind of ad hoc group, then we do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
like that idea.
Okay, good.
I have a comment or issue that I noticed. I was looking at the county website, and they need to. We've moved on. But they're going to have to update their webpage there on some of our because it still looks like we're trying to pass these
Oh.
amendments, and that we got to put the next batch in there. Of course, we'll do that after December 8th, but they may need to at least clean that up a little bit. Anyway, that's
Okay.
just is who coordinates that with our group with the county.
Anthony has been tasked with coordinating with Lee Radford on the
Oh, okay.
webpage. So
Okay.
I'm gonna push this, suggest we push this to the Public Information and Communications Subcommittee to update the website
Okay.
and maybe incorporate summary of the 2021 measures.
Yeah.
Reflect
Well,
the
is
vote.
the slideshow there?
Yeah, they could probably use the slideshow.
Yeah, you do the presentation that we gave.
But it's sort of out of timing, is out of context, so it needs to be updated. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
well, it would make more sense to put Chuck's most recent slideshow on there.
Yeah.
No, because these are effects, and like I think as we decided that is not something that Chuck can. Well, how
I
did
don't believe
how
it's
did-
effects. It's
how did
just
you
a listing of the actual
can I
amendments in the
change-
past.
can
We
I finish
changed it
what
to
I said?
summary.
Yeah, change it to just say it on a summary, and then make sure that all the slides don't reflect like in, you know, this is what I think is the effects, or this is what. make sure everything is.
Oh, that's
Right.
Chris.
You must be in your office. You have your hat on.
I was. My face is horrible with it off now. It's been on all
Can't the county get you some heat? Dang.
Are you
Three
in
of
your
us are outdoors and 2 indoors.
are you in your physical office or a home office?
I'm at home now, but my physical office is very, very cold, which I came from before the meeting.
Oh. All right, so what else do we need in our work plan then? If we do, I would like to, while we're still in office, maybe meet with the county manager's office. I don't know who does the code publishing. But I would like to see if we can at least document legislative intent.
That's a good idea. And Doug, I was talking to Doug about this earlier. Doug, you can.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall. I've been so busy the last 4 hours. Yeah, I'd be glad to volunteer for that with other folks on legislative intent and work with. I think it's usually somebody in the county manager's office that has to put it together and
Yeah.
just to work with them on at least my pieces that I know well, and everybody else could work on their pieces, like Chuck
I can work.
dealing with the
I can
fifth
work on.
district, 5 district one.
I can help with that too. I just think I think I'll find it really interesting. Chuck, are you up for that?
Are you volunteering me?
Yeah, I am.
All right, I'll do it. Actually, it's reason I suggested we form this subcommittee.
I know, and I just think it's really interesting. And I worked on 4 of those amendment subcommittees, and so yeah.
All right. Do you think there's anything else we need to do before our terms end?
I
No,
just
did we-
wanted to mention about that code compliance, the code issue. It took them several months to get around to changing, all those technical changes in the code and that sort of thing last time. So it may well be that it's an ad hoc group formed now, but who acts over the next year as they work through. They don't do all the code revisions at once. They do them one by one and changing language and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, the issue last time was kind of 2/3 of the commission were opposed to the charter and tried to throw up roadblocks to actually implement it. But I think there was no legislative intent. And we've gone back. We've had to go to Nan Henriksen, Temple Lentz, and Jim Maines, and a few others to kind of quiz them on what their thoughts were. So I think documenting the legislative intent is going to be critical.
That makes sense.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That makes sense.
So is that number 4 or number 5?
That's number 3, which is our work plan, and number 5, which are the 2 to 3 people. Did you want to be a liaison too, Terry or Bridget?
Who's on the ethics one?
I have a question about the documentation for next charter
Sure.
review.
Why don't we go to that one?
Go to that one.
So
Is Bridget going to be on 5?
Well, let's see, because we don't all need to be on everything. A lot of the documentation for the next Charter Review Commission, I wasn't on the commission all the way through, and it strikes me that those who took such a lead role in all the subcommittees are best able to document the process of how we arrive, what the mechanics, if you like, of how to proceed through the charter review tasks.
well, I think there's a couple things. One is we started with this. We really didn't have a summary of lessons learned to go by from the freeholders. We just had to kind of pick around and find it,
Right.
or interview them. I think it would be nice to leave the next Charter Review Commission kind of a lessons learned guide.
I'll be happy to be on that too.
I agree.
Yeah, so would I. I think it'd be good to kind of, and this can be something that extends past the end of our term as well. Just kind of checking in to get some notes and feedback from all of the commissioners to kind of consolidate and put something together to be shared moving forward.
Bridget, were you volunteering for that, or were you
I-
kind of waiting to see the other part of this?
I was waiting to see that part because I think I'm probably more useful on the core team of 2 to 3 people than I am on the documentation of the lessons learned. So if somebody else wants to drop off the liaison thing, I'll go on there, and then we've got two good committees.
I would like to see maybe everybody engaged in number 4, at least at the start of the end of this year, like the last week or so, maybe have a meeting inviting all the folks so we could, and maybe even that's when you want a facilitator to try to get down. Everybody's got experiences or thoughts or frustrations about the commission and the work. And I think it's an opportune time for us to do a data dump, at least, that we could then have a core committee afterwards next year, just sort of work
Maybe we
on
could,
developing on that. But
yeah,
I think,
I don't know, Chuck and Doug, maybe we could put some thoughts down. I know there was like people could put some thoughts down, and then like this, and then we could reach out to commissioners and see if they want to add or subtract from any of that. I know that there was a lot of lessons learned in the beginning, around outreach and this kind of stuff, and like how quickly we have to move and those kind of things. So I think that there's a lot to that can be on there, and maybe reaching out to the whole commission and just say, hey, can you just send, whether it's me, Doug, and Chris, can you send us, some of your key points or suggestions?
I would go so far as to even go out there and just arrange to talk to everyone a little bit and take notes based off that. But we
Well,
we can figure out the methodology later.
Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah.
be interpreting what somebody said to me. I'd rather them going, hey, can you, what?
Even an open-ended survey might work.
Ask them to write an email. It's easy
I
peasy.
think- Well, I think what we have is we have our next meeting December 1st. And we can put the word out there that we're going to need to report on this as part of the meeting. We could put the word out. We'd like to find volunteers to interview, to get their ideas of lessons learned. The reason I want to do some of these things before December 31st is because we're doing it as Charter Review Commissioners rather than former Charter Review Commissioners. So I think it has a little bit more emphasis behind it.
I think it'd be good to set it up. Like, I don't think we have to do any of the
Interview
work
people.
before we're off.
I don't think we need to interview. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I didn't realize you're okay. I don't think we need to do the work. I like the idea of setting it up and being like, hey, these folks have volunteered to do some outreach. Expect a call or email looking for some more information. More to come on that when they do it. But I don't think we need to do any of the work as commissioners. It's the holidays. It's the end of the commission thing. We got the other potential amendments being discussed. But setting it up, we don't have to go into detail. We don't have to deal with methodology. We can do all that after the new year.
Well, the
And then-
thing is that we wouldn't have any standing. It would just be
Why
some
would we need any standing?
volunteers doing
It's
it.
just collecting information to share with the next folks. I don't know why that would be required. Sorry, Terry,
Chris,
go ahead, please.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to have to push back. I don't think we should be interviewing anyone. That's why I don't think we should be sitting with people taking notes and trying to interpret what they're saying or do anything like that. I think that asking them, going, Please, we're putting something together, lessons learned. Can you send me anything that you would like to be included in that? And then it's there, and we have their words, and we're not interviewing people, and we're not, you know, it's making it much more difficult than it has to be.
It
So
helps
in my
document.
experience, it's actually the opposite. It makes it simpler, but I understand where you're coming from. This is, you know, a quality improvement methodology, and it's also data collection as well. But you know, either way, I think we get good information. The questions that could be asked and the answers can be very direct and straightforward too. And it could be just as well the same
Then
question
put
could
that
be
in
in
an
an
email
email.
form.
That's just fine as well. So
Yeah.
there's options.
And I don't think it needs to take a lot of effort. I don't think we need to deflect people. Because, you know, after December 8th, we're still commissioners for another 3 weeks, but we don't have, right now, we don't have any other meetings scheduled.
So at the next meeting, you would ask them to send any concerns or issues or things that they would see that they'd like to see, would have liked to seen done by the commission, or things that future commissioners would like to do. Send them to you so that we gotta have somebody being the chair, or somebody has to collect that
Or they can
information.
send them to the 3 people that are listed there, just the 3 commissioners.
Yeah.
So there's two things in this conversation that I think are a little different. The first are, in the 11 months we've been doing this, what are some of the, for the good of the order, lessons learned from how we've conducted this process or what we've experienced that we want to pass on to the next Charter Review Commission to start with? The other one is, as we've gone along, and we talked about this early on, as we've gone along, there's some measures that we started considering and then we dropped. You know,
Right.
we had a vote 9-6, 5 versus 7 districts, but people were really clear. I think if we could have had a trigger provision put into that amendment, I think you would have had a lot of more people voting for that trigger provision to go to 7 districts, but we couldn't. It's more of just information for the next one. It's not necessarily, here's some amendments you guys should start with. It's more
Right.
of, here's some things that we did consider. And that's where I think Doug is coming from. How do we document those?
I think that's a good point, Chuck. And so maybe this group can start on that through email, right? Things that we remembered that we were going to talk about. The nonpartisan redistricting committee is another big one. And that seems to be rearing its ugly head. And people are asking for it from me.
Mhm.
It's like, you know, since we watched what happened at the state level. So so that's a good point. Maybe we could also start with like just some basic questions, like, you know, or, you know, maybe make a timeline of what we did, and you know, like what that looked like, what we did, what we would like to do, you know, how we can improve on that kind of stuff, or basic questions to put up to commissioners to answer if they want to or not answer, you know. So maybe we could start an email, like for us to, like what those questions are.
One of the things I noticed, the freeholders spend a lot of time, even though a lot of them were in government already, but they really didn't know how county government worked, was they spent months, like at least 2 or 3 months, just trying to educate the people how county government worked. And, you know, everybody had their misconceptions of what home rule could do and all that. And so they had to go through a education process, a government 101 type process to
Right.
get clear. And then uh, it I think then there's better interaction with people of rationale why people are asking for certain things, because certain things, I mean, we're trying to make things more efficient and effective, and
Well,
all that.
yeah, keep
My-
in mind, next Charter Review Commission is going to have up to 2 years.
I know. So it's going to be a lot different, because they are going to be able to do outreach that we, quite frankly, in the first half of this year did not, it wasn't sufficient. We didn't, get community input like we should have, when I'm giving presentations at the NAACP and they're going, well, how come nobody reached out to this? How come nobody to this organization? And when I'm giving presentations to the neighborhood associations going, how come we weren't talked to? So outreach is the biggest thing that I think that I learned from this is like, how can you do this and have it proper outreach? It was just slow get written off the ground. And, so there was many things to like, how can you, that the next charter review can learn from and how to speed up that process and how to make sure like, from day one, that should be a priority. And that's just mine. And I'll put that in when the email goes out to the other ones, I'll put my stuff too.
Well, I think
it should be a day one priority. And I remember being Doug last year talking about it like in first and second meeting going, oh, we need a communications team.
Just to review again the organization of our commission, we had co-chairs versus a chair. If it's a 2-year process, it definitely would take a burden on somebody to be a single chair for that 2-year period. And people understanding the time commitments that this all takes, or there's lots of factors, what really support that we have as an commission, which was very little.
So I guess I want to go,
Whoops.
we're about 1 minute into the, well, actually, I can go a little longer if you guys can.
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you're documenting a lot of that listening to past experience under number 3. I'm wondering, is that really what should be under number 4?
Oh, I was just listing them out.
Okay. So I'm also interested in number 5, but I don't want it to be too big a group. You've suggested 2 to 3 people, so I don't know. Terry, you're taking on a lot of stuff with the documentation. I'm wondering if you'd rather do that than be this liaison with the county.
The liaison is probably a short-term thing where the documentation will probably take most of the year. But I think wouldn't a core team liaisons be more aligned to the subject matters?
I think that would be more of the
Okay.
the sitting down and finding out where areas they might have questions on legislative intent. So it's more because liaisons is not actually doing, it's basically taking stuff that we're doing as a subcommittee
Okay.
and meeting with the county as needed. I could see it maybe being 1 or 2 meetings at most. I just don't see how the calendar is going to be friendly there.
Fair enough.
It's just like I don't know who did the ethics one, if you were who the chair was or whatever, but
I think Terry was.
Okay, I wasn't engaged in that one, so I wouldn't know what the total intent of the wording would be. And I think every subcommittee that was engaged, and maybe just someone. I know you want to do a core team of people, but just let whoever is the code reviser, just let them know who the chairs were of these committees, because they probably could help them through that process if they're stuck on in its particular area. That's my suggestion. So it might be more than just the 3 of us, but it
could be 4.
I look at being all the people engaged in that.
I could see it could be 4. I mean, it's more of just kind of a discussion go-to group because we also have the group of 3 doing the less. Actually, where's the legislative intent? Maybe, yeah. You know what?
That was legislative intent.
Yeah, it was legislative intent. So yeah, this would be the legislative intent group.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Doug makes a good point about the chairs.
Well, chairs weren't legislative intent, but Bridget, did you want to be part of that liaison legislative intent?
Only if it's useful. I wasn't a chair.
Yeah, it doesn't, that to me doesn't matter if you were chair of the subcommittee or not. I think it matters that you were part of developing whatever, if it was ethics or, like, for me, I've been active working with the county on the redistricting of the 5 district map, just so they had a record of what we did. And then I sent you the memo that I've been doing that actually would just go into archives. Because the redistricting committee is going to modify that map, so it doesn't matter what we ended up with as much as it was, here's the process to get there. Now it's the redistricting committee's hands. I don't see much more work there other than making sure that all those crossovers that happen, like the nonpartisan positions, the changing composition, as to how the Charter Review Commission is formed, when the next Charter Review Commission process, the review process will happen. I don't know when that 5-year clock starts ticking.
Right.
And so that's where I'm looking at some of those things that kind of work toward. Because it could be the county manager that kind of launches that process next time and takes it into the county council as a resolution to form.
And I've been interested in the code and reading through and all those sort of rationales that are in there. That's why I was interested in this.
Yeah.
They hide the code.
The biggest one I think is going to be the ethics, because you
Yeah.
remember there are all these discussions, and I was not on that subcommittee.
I
but
was on the subcommittee.
Yeah.
I know
Um,
about the intent, and a lot of, like I said, I don't even think that commissioners are quite aware of the intent.
Well,
But
and if you remember, what we decided to do as a commission is we kind of, instead of created a code in the amendment, we pushed that to the county council to do. the
Right.
code.
right,
But the question is, what's the intent behind that? What was the thought as to what that code would look like? That to me is
I
institutional.
can answer all those questions.
Yeah, and that's the important thing to document here. That was the legislative intent that went into that and the background behind it.
And they tabled their changes to review
Yeah.
what happened with the amendment. They were due to discuss it this week, and they've tabled it for another couple of weeks.
So I saw that, but then they're going to have to figure out how they're going to get to a code, because they have to adopt that code by July 31st. Or they're in violation of the charter.
Well, right now they've got two, the code of ethics and then the code of personal conduct as a commissioner.
Yeah,
Council.
well, their code of ethical conduct only applies to the county council. This code of ethics that's in the amendment applies to elected and appointed officials and departments. As the language is in there, departments shall adopt that code.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. The how-to guide on how to use the charter. That was something, where did we put that when you were?
It's in the next page. That's where it went.
Oh, okay, because that's something that Bridget might be interested in, that one. Who to go with questions, how to do the separations of powers.
Yes, I am interested in.
So that might be a good one for, since you weren't on committees, to really concentrate on, because you know how to use the charter. You really
I
do.
also know how to use the ethics code.
No, we don't have an ethics code.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer for that as well. Now, I think this is one, didn't we not push this to 2022? Yeah, we did.
That you
Yeah.
could do whenever you guys wanted to. Yeah.
So we basically, I thought we all volunteered to be available as
We will.
as a whole subcommittee. That's what I thought. That's why.
Oh, we did. Okay. Okay, so take back that question about what happened to the the how-to guide. Thank you.
Yeah. I do need to get volunteers for this, items considered that didn't move forward. Now, we get volunteers, and we do, a lot of this was documented in some of our whiteboard sessions
Right.
in our minutes. So it's basically going back to our meeting archives and pulling some of that.
Yeah, we really just need to list them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who wants to volunteer for
um,
this?
What about Jeff Swanson has all that info?
Well, if we volunteer Jeff Swanson, that's paid. That's not a volunteer.
Shouldn't take him long to collect his notes, right?
Well,
Oh, you know what? He was supposed to do something like that. That was part of his agreement. He was supposed to put something together. When you look back at his contract, it was part of his contract was to help with. So
and he has budget until the end of the year to do that. So
okay, so you might want to look back at his contract because I know in his contract it talks about summarizing everything that happened, and I think that this is included in it.
well, I'll bring it up. I'm trying to get an executive team meeting set up next week to set our agenda for the December 1st meeting, so I can bring it up with them.
Can you have in your officers' reports what the budget is and what generally it's been spent on so far?
I have no idea. I've asked that question, and I don't think I've asked it in quite a while, but I don't think it was anywhere close to
It
spending
wasn't.
out as 20,000.
Yeah, well, maybe we didn't spend it as effectively as we could have.
Well, that's part of the lessons learned, I guess.
Yeah,
There you go.
but I just like to know what we've done so far, and maybe if we need to do anything more to advertise the second phase between now and the end of the year. I mean, we could have some contracts for, like, I don't know if we could pay for face or some other type of communication out there to let people know about what we're doing that would carry over until next year or not. You could do contracts and it'll carry over, but you have to pay for them this year.
Yeah. Well, his contract ends at the end of December.
Well, I was talking more other types of communication, which I don't have any ideas at this point in time, except for social media.
So
Sounds like Chris was volunteering to pull that together
which
with
one,
the help of Jeff.
the items considered that didn't move forward?
Yeah, didn't you say that, Chris?
No, I was saying Jeff's.
Jeff,
Rather than digging through all the emails and such, if Jeff Swanson has notes and he can put them together, probably take
Yeah.
him 10 minutes and send that to everybody, that would be super helpful. But if not,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I could pick through and find those notes.
Jeff has them all because he sent us out a survey going rank this one, and he did all this
Yeah,
stuff.
those results.
He has
exactly.
them all. It'll take him a second.
Well, he should know what his budget is, budget available is, since he has to send in the bills. So does anybody else want to volunteer to kind of package these?
Package what?
The items that didn't move forward, or items to pass along to the next charter review?
Isn't that already kind of packaged with that lessons learned guide under like the number 4? Couldn't that same team just like add that in?
Yeah.
Like here's what we did, here's what we didn't pursue, and here's our lessons learned guide, kind of a.
Okay, well, then you've just volunteered Terry, Doug, and yourself to do
Sorry,
that.
guys.
Thanks,
It sounds
Chris.
good. It's just a list.
So the other thing I'd like to add to this lessons learned list, it surprised me that we didn't have really good legal support. I mean, we had the county's legal counsel, but we didn't really have anybody. She is only responding to items that we put in front of her, not to the items that our intern, sometimes we put her on tasks of researching, almost like a clerk, a legal clerk or something like that. I would love to have had, because who was it? That somebody said that Snohomish County had the Charter Review Commission had their own attorney.
Hmm.
Well, one of them had their own clerk that was part-time that is assigned to do stuff, almost like a paralegal who could write up
Yeah,
stuff.
paralegal, that's the term I was looking for. That to me would
At
be
San
important
Juan,
to pass along.
I know that San Juan, their actual, I think it was their prosecuting attorney, or actually really helped write their language on some of their stuff.
So I was gonna put pizza in.
Yeah, because tell you the truth, I don't know if you are aware of how much time Doug and I spent at the end of June and early July, before that July 7th meeting, trying to piece together what is it that we need to put in this resolution? What's the form? What's the legal language in here? What do we write for the ballot? Because there wasn't any direction.
That's a good point, Chuck. And you know what? I'm going through that, because I'm on the drafting committee now, and we had the templates and stuff. So that's a great point. So maybe we can add that, and I'd be happy to kind of put that together. Is like template for resolutions for drafting committee. Just templates for drafting committee to put resolutions on the ballot, because if I had to just read that direction that was sent, that little booklet, it'd be like, oh my God. But having like another resolution that we went back to and kind of use that as a template was so much easier. And I can imagine how much time that took you to kind of figure out like how to do that.
We
And
spent probably half of a weekend, and then we had I think we had, because that's when Chris Cook was going to Alaska, and so we had this hour or 2 hour long session with Amanda, Chris Cook, and Doug and me, and it was brutal.
Well, yeah, and that's why either a paralegal or something like that could be, because I'm sure the template will, I mean, it's not, we could put it in now, but they may change it down the road. But at least it gives the next commissioners a starting point to move forward.
right.
But yeah,
Might be a
the
more
first half-
useful way to spend the budget than to have professional facilitation from the beginning.
I honestly think we could have used half the budget for Jeff to do the special facilitation, the other half for a paralegal or some type of clerk support. Because
Yeah.
we didn't have that.
Yeah,
These
the
are
other
all
thing,
kind of
Law
things that we
clerk.
would include in something after collecting information from folks. I think we're getting a little bit in the weeds here.
Yeah. So
So I
we're
don't know.
trying to do your work for you, so you're gonna have to figure it out yourself now from now on.
are you taking
The
this?
feedback will be valuable this time.
All right, have we beat this to death yet?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is this what you were you wanted, Chuck? I mean, it's everything here
Yeah,
seems
this is exactly what I was hoping to get, so I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover, except, do we want to schedule another meeting? Or do we think we have the next steps and kind of our to-dos from here?
It wouldn't hurt to have another meeting to see what we've been doing or not doing. But
so. But
would
maybe
be-
we can do a lot of this on email, right?
How about
Uh,
we schedule something after December 8th, just to check in?
that's
yeah,
what I was gonna
yeah.
suggest.
And Chuck, you'll kick this back to us in your notes.
Yes, I'm going to send these out as soon as we're done.
One of the things too, I'd sort of like to have the officers to be able to express what their frustrations were in terms of the way how things were set up or run. I'd sort of like I wasn't really I was lukewarm about which way to go, having a chair and a vice chair or do co-chairs. But I'm thinking, well, you could have, because you got to run a meeting, and so someone has got to do the facilitating and watching that, and you could have just someone. It's not fair to have really because everybody needs to be thinking about participating in that. You can't really have a commissioner do that. So I think having Jeff was good idea. But there's sometimes you didn't need. I mean, you could have used a co-chair to help facilitate because you weren't really getting into something that you had to think about policy or
And I
process.
wasn't privy to those original discussions between Wyatt, where Kim and Mike um, suggested a co-chair relationship. You know, I've got my thoughts. Kim, I'm sure, has hers, and I'd be willing um, to weigh in on those as well. I think there's things that worked. I think there's things that could be improved. But you know, the fact is, with co-chairs, you can at least go have one kind of, as we've been doing it the last 2 or 3 months, where one facilitates the meeting and the other presents some of the things that the executive team is bringing, like creation of subcommittees, intent, and that type of thing.
I really liked having co-chairs. I think that it made it more diverse, and we didn't get a single way of doing things or a single, and so it made it more inclusive, I think.
So gang,
So I
we
think you
started
might
talking
be,
about our preferences and opinions as part of the feedback process. We're not really talking about what we're here to talk about right now.
I know.
yeah, so I think
We have a tendency to do that. So just bringing us back to the task at
Well,
hand, please.
I basically want to bring us back that I'll put probably send a doodle poll to schedule a check-in meeting after December 8th. So if there's any other to-dos that come out of that meeting, we can wrap things up in the next 3 weeks after that. I'll also, I think for those who are tasked with liaisons to the county, I think I'll get with Kathleen Otto. Maybe I'll just put that down. See, what is it? Decision on how to guide and legislative intent. And then I'll work with you all to get that scheduled. Anything else?
Sounds good.
All right, I think we're done. Anything else for the good of the order before I stop recording?
Motion to adjourn.
Anybody opposed to adjourning?
I'll second it even.
I'll third
Yeah.
it.
Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you. Good meeting. Thank you.
Bye.